Welcome back to Red Faction 2, and I got a sniper section again. Well,
literally right after we took out one of the bosses. Quill.
And oh yeah, we have to survive until Tangier arrives, and just like most of the other segments in this game, this goes on for an eternity.
Yeah,
No, I do get it. Also, Quill was a bastard and all that, but all the same. And I get it. Maybe I'm asking for the moon and everything, but would it have killed him to at least have the protagonist reflect on the fact that he now has to kill his old friends and allies?
I mean, to be fair,
they were friends.
I mean, to be fair, he knew them about as much as we did.
Wait. Is that seriously the case that they barely knew each other?
Well, I mean, the game had a 2-year time skip, remember, so...
Well, okay, my point is it actually established that they barely knew each other? Because the way the characters seem to act, it seems like we're supposed to assume that they're such a tightly knit group of friends, and that's why it's such a shock that Malav betrays us.
Yeah, honestly, it's not really that big a deal, because again, we know these people about as much as I know George Clooney.
Oh, I get that for us, the players, but you'd think they would at least try to establish what the character's relationship is. Because again, the fact that they make such a big deal out of Malav's betrayal suggests that we were a tightly knit group in story, essentially. If they weren't, then, well, surely they should have, prepared for something like this then?
Well,
Dwibs. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But Dwibs, I know George Clooney. He's Spike, Stan's dog.
Nah, man, have you ever talked to him?
I'm not joking. Stan's dog is voiced by George Clooney. Basically, George Clooney is a big friend of Trey Parker and Matt Stone, and Trey and Matt love to satirize celebrity voices by having their celebrity guests star in the most ridiculous of roles that are completely beneath these celebrities, like George Clooney playing Sparky. And George Clooney is a big fan of their work, so and he's their friend. So again, he's perfectly willing to do it. So might as well.
But again, to compare this narratively to, you know what? Let's go to like the very first Metal Gear, like way before games like these were made. And this is strictly in a narrative section, so not even comparing the gameplay, but narratively, with the first Metal Gear, it's established well enough. Snake trusts Big Boss, and that's why it's such a big deal when it turns out Big Boss was the big bad all along, essentially. And mind you, Metal Gear is nowhere near to the series' most deepest narrative, but it does something as simple as the twist villain betrayal thing to a T, where I'm like, it's not even that hard to do. Why does this game struggle with even that?
It's bad when two games that were on the bloody MSX have a more deeper plot than this 2002 PS2 game.
Oh yeah, but like the second Metal Gear in particular, that game has aged way better than it has any right to be. Like because you'd think a game from 1990 playing would have like a major but no, you can still enjoy the plot in a very good way, and again, it's still as strong as it was back then.
Oh, finally, the segment's nearly over. I know it's only been 4 minutes, but it feels like a bloody eternity.
Insert Blue Dragon song joke here.
I will say this, you gotta be really, really, really into the FPS genre to enjoy this game. And I don't even mean just your typical FPS game you could enjoy. I mean...
We're going to destroy the lab.
Sexual innuendos are just...
Come on, get us out of here while I hack a few databases and find us a way
how
inside the
subtle. The lab is at Sopot's feet. Get it? Because he hid it under the statue.
Well, as also she said earlier, come on, let's get wet.
Also, we have a submarine section in the sewer. Great.
Remind me,
Well,
Go on.
Well, at least this one didn't explode on me. Yes, Pedro?
Remind me, does this game have a multiplayer mode? It probably already said, but I forgot.
It does, but I'm not going to show it off.
Oh, sure.
I don't have any
Okay, let me ask you this. when you're playing the single player campaign, do the levels feel unnecessarily large and spacious?
I haven't played the multiplayer.
No, I mean the single player levels.
Well, I'll show you in this actually. Because of how murky the graphics are, it's very easy to get lost.
Mm-hmm. It does look like it's, at the very least, you know, it technically does have a more tight. It's not like a wide open space. That's what I'm asking. Right? So
I think it's a bit too wide open, but hey, at least the missiles fire a lot faster than in the original.
Mm-hmm. From what I'm seeing here so far, it does seem like at the very least the levels are tightly designed with the single player in mind. Based on what I'm seeing, it doesn't seem like it's like with my problem with the first Halo, where they just use the multiplayer levels for the campaign instead of making proper campaign-specific level design.
I could have sworn Halo did have its fair share of campaign-specific levels.
The first one, no. I don't know about the sequels because I haven't played those yet, but...
Did you also play the multiplayer to test that out?
I watched footage on YouTube to check.
It's like every single level? Weird. I mean, I'll admit, I'm more familiar with this.
We had this exact same conversation a few parts ago.
I understand the point. Like, remember, most people prefer playing the multiplayer anyway, so. But
yeah,
like, if there's
yeah,
for me, like, I was trying to play the game so I could, you know, familiarize myself with the story and the lore, so I can watch the show and see just how badly it fucks up everything, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, I'll admit, I'm more familiar with Halo's lore and its single-player stuff, so, ironically, I'm someone who's into Halo who's not really familiar with the multiplayer stuff.
I mean, you've seen Red vs. Blue, Joe, you get an idea genuinely what the maps look like.
Yes, I do get that. That said, I could have sworn that there were some sections in the solo campaign that feel like they could really only work in a solo campaign, but,
well, let me check.
Again,
go ahead.
But, you know, it is possible that that could be the case, though, still. So, you know, I'm not going to doubt you. I just do find it weird, because I feel like that segment where you're doing with the stealth monsters, like, that feels like level design that only works in a single-player sense, since there is a linear progression to it as well.
Also, my god, this submarine level looks so unappealing with all this brown.
It really does. Like, holy cow. This, you know... I think I realized one thing that really stinks for me in this game. This compiles everything visually that I did not like about 6th Gen. Now, that is not to say that 6th Gen in general looked like this, but this feels like the worst of what 6th Gen had to offer visually. More gray,
last game looks better
brown.
than this.
It looks more gray, more brown, murky, washed out colors. It's hard to look through, and it's hard to look at.
Again, that's the thing, connecting what Dwibs just said. Again, it's what we said previously. It's amazingly terrible in how, in almost every single aspect, this game manages to be worse than its predecessor.
And that is definitely one of the worst things you can do with a sequel. Pretty much make everything worse. Like, unless the multiplayer was fair, Dwibs, since you're probably the biggest expert of us, was there much fan appeal to the multiplayer at the time of its release?
Again, I haven't really looked that much into that. My main focus is the single player.
Also, I'm pretty sure the sort of whatever. Okay, I can believe at least maybe the PC version had online multiplayer back then, but you know, when it came to the PS2, unless you used the actual prototype, you know, LAN component, I can't believe that multiplayer was just mostly tied to, you know, couch stuff, which again, I get the idea it's either not super developed or inaccessible at this point.
Okay,
so
looking
now we've
under
got
the
minds that follow you.
Okay, looking under the reception section on Wikipedia, apparently one of the things that was criticized was the game's uber short campaign and the lack of online multiplayer. So, I'm guessing that means that this game, while it had multiplayer, didn't have online multiplayer.
It's weird. I think Quake 3 was actually being done around this time, if it hadn't been already there. Or at the very least, one of the first one, at least the first one real tournament games were should have been present, if I remember correctly.
So, basically, essentially, what you're telling me is that, okay, Dwibs, the first game, that definitely had online multiplayer, right?
Yeah.
So you're telling me that in a sequel to a game with online multiplayer, if this reception is to be believed, there was a lack of online multiplayer?
I mean, again, good job. Considering they rushed the fuck out of it, I'm not too surprised.
But that's... I mean, okay, yeah, I get that, but you'd think even then they'd realize, hey, maybe we should make sure we have some, you know, a good amount of online multiplayer, which is probably going to be the main appeal. It's, wow. I mean, it's funny, because usually whenever we commentate on games like these, you know, where we have issues with the campaign, usually it seems that, you know, they fell back on the online multiplayer. But this game sounds like they couldn't fall back on the online multiplayer because they were heavily lacking on it. Let me see.
It's pretty much clear to me, Jova, that during development, you know, they were told by the old THQ to just, pop this turkey out of the oven as soon as possible. Then during development, they thought, well, we still have a bit of budget, remaining, but the audience doesn't seem to be caring particularly much about the voice acting. Let's hire a bunch of celebrities and see if that we can use that kind of hook to actually attract people. And that's what happened.
I'm checking on Steam discussion, and so I can confirm now, the multiplayer is an offline mode with bots that you can customize. That's it. No online multiplayer whatsoever in this game. Which is just insane.
I got 666 kills.
Now, granted,
John Romero will be so proud of you, Dwibs.
Beautiful. Now, I guess, to be fair, the FPS online multiplayer genre maybe wasn't as insanely popular as it would be by the time of 7th Gen, but even still, again, according to Dwibs, the first game did have online multiplayer. Why would... so they were so desperate to rush out a sequel that they got rid of the online multiplayer. That's like if a Mario Kart game got rid of the online multiplayer.
Or a Mario Party game did not add online multiplayer. Oh, wait.
Yeah, that was pretty dumb of Nintendo.
Again, the more recent titles are technically correct, finally fixing this, but we needed to get there, basically.
Although, and this is not defending Nintendo, but at least in that case, once they started getting online multiplayer, they kept the online multiplayer as far as I can recall.
Alright, so I should explain here. We found the enemy's base, but we can't get inside it. Those are the bits we were supposed to swim into. It says go to this one, but I can't get into it. I can only get into it when the game tells me I can.
Are you sure it's not just a case where you need to blast open a certain section?
No, I tried, but you need to actually just find where the enemy submarines are, blow them up, and then the game decides you can go in.
I guess the logic behind that is that, they're the...
Because she has to hack into the, she has to hack in and open it.
And those possibly jam that, maybe that's the excuse.
In the meantime, Jova, okay, so I found it. So basically, you were kind of right. For the single player campaigns, they slightly tweak the level design of the maps to accommodate certain aspects of the campaign, but they're still the same maps. But so basically, they took the multiplayer maps, Jova, and they slightly retooled them just a bit to make sure it fits what the campaign needed, basically.
That doesn't surprise me as much. I think a lot of FPSs even still do that nowadays, where they'll have like an edited version of a level.
Bungie's first major full-on 3D game, up until this point, they'd worked mostly with just sprites.
I can excuse that more since, it was a bit of asset reusal, but for it being their first big main game, That was
sure.
probably what they could afford.
I understand. I understand. Trust me, I do. But like when it comes to actually playing the game itself, it makes the level design so unnecessarily spacious and big to the point it takes so long to get anywhere. You know what I mean?
Honestly,
fair.
Pedro, you know what would help if Master Chief was actually walking at a decent speed, but because it was the start of the era of streamlining FPS for console purposes, your character started to move slow as molasses, like I said.
Yeah.
Pedro, if you hate unnecessarily big levels, you are going to loathe Spyro Into the Dragonfly.
Well, I know that I've played that game, Dwibs. I know exactly.
You have?
Yes, I have.
He's mentioned
As a
playing that
matter of
before.
fact.
How far did you get before?
Not far, for obvious reasons.
Yeah,
What? You could have
because
literally gotten to the end of the game at the start, though, by flying up high and then flying into that
By
one
that
obscure pool.
by that point, it was already obvious to me. Yeah, if Insomniac's not making these, they're not worth playing.
Crash and Spyro had completely different, hugely different look with their first main console games, not on PlayStation. Crash Wrath of Cortex was just mediocre. Enter the Dragonfly is just flat out bad. It's the Sonic 06 of the series for a good reason.
Also, I argue, at least on a gameplay level, Hero's Tale is actually a much better endeavor, as it's fun to play and everything. It's just that the sense of humor, your mileage may vary on that.
Hero's Tale feels weirdly dark at times, I'm not gonna lie.
Not just that, Joe, but it only feels very self-deprecating for no adequate reason, and not at a point where the franchise, felt like it was needing it. It felt more like kicking Spyro while it was down, at least to me.
I feel like
I know people like that sense of humor, and theoretically, like you said, there's nothing wrong with it. It was just a matter of poor timing. But like I said, the gameplay is fun, so there's that. Hell, I managed to blink the ball levels, so bite me.
It's just again, I mean, a bit of a downgrade to me was the what was the music? Just going into generic kids adventure game music, which the other games weren't. I mean, hell, even the first GBA Spyro game sounded more like the older ones.
You just say that, please, because it's not made by Stuart from the land of coping.
My personal...
Okay, to be honest, Tio, I reckon Stuart was just burned out by that point because, well, remember, we got that final boss track for a reason.
Yeah.
My personal take on Hero's Tale is, in a different circumstance where it wasn't the game that the series at the time was hinging on to recover after Enter the Dragonfly, at first it might have just been seen as a bump in the road, and at best it would have been seen as a relatively flawed but still fun step. But the problem was, it was coming up of Enter the Dragonfly. It's kind of like Crash Bandicoot Mind Over Mutant, given how that was coming up of Crash of the Titans, and, well, Mind Over Mutant kind of ended up being the last Crash game for a while. Now, that wasn't the case with Hero's Tale, but if I recall correctly, after Hero's Tale, that's when we got the reboot.
Well, I mean, there was that DS game.
Shadow Legacy, which from what I understand, plot-wise, is actually fine, but the gameplay is just all over the place. But that's a story.
Well, console-wise, though, after Hero's Tale, what we got was the reboot, essentially, which, okay, I'll say this, I actually don't hate the reboot. I have something of a soft spot for it.
Okay, I'm also more understanding about Chrome Studios as a whole, the makers of at least the first two games. But the problem is that I guess they were mostly just caring about making Tasmanian Tiger instead, because for some reason the first Legend of Spyro genuinely hard, unnecessarily hard as beat 'em ups. Everything you heard about them being, excessively difficult for what they want to, make the player experience, that is actually correct, and I don't understand why. You're trying to make these new reboots with this more fantastical tale in order to appease more the Lord of the Rings crowd, so mostly also younger kids as well. But you offer a gameplay type of challenge that probably is more than to a teen crowd more than anything.
I wonder, was God of War big at the time?
Oh yeah, absolutely, Drova. But to be fair, that was M-rated. It wasn't really something that young kids would have thought, or at least were allowed, at least on paper. All right, can we enter now?
Right,
Wow.
Is it this one? Because that other door wasn't opening that. I could
Like I
tell.
said, this level.
All right, so
I will say, I will have to say, this level really sucks.
okay then, Dwibs, tell us what's behind door number 3.
More of this,
Another
although we
enemy
are near
by the
the
looks of
end,
it.
so that's something.
This is a shitty game show.
You know, okay, so the game was rushed, so in order to make the campaign feel, I guess, longer than a half
Oh,
an
thank
hour,
God.
they just had to expand the hell out of stuff.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I get that not every game can be Metal Gear.
the character model
popped out
vanished.
of existence. Oh my god!
I guess at least she not T-posed.
You know what? Now, you know what? That makes it easier to make my point. I get it. Not every PS2 game can be like Metal Gear Solid 2, but even still, if you go back and watch the Naughty Dog Crash Bandicoot games, the lip syncing on the PS1 in those games is fine. And don't tell me you can't have at the very least decent lip syncing.
Hell,
It's not even like the game.
Naughty Dog had to lip sync to a whole bunch of languages in those games, and they did a fine job.
Yeah.
Like, wow, that, like, I gotta give them credit for the dedication of reanimating the lip motions for the different languages. And, like, I'm sorry, but in fact, the first Red Faction game, I recall having better lip syncing than
Again,
this, so...
we all keep circling around back the same issue. How do you manage to make a sequel that in practically all aspect is genuinely worse? Like, at one point,
Jesus.
someone should have stepped in and told to either start again or cancel the project altogether.
Or, delay it so that they get at least a year to work on
To be
it.
fair,
Like,
Java, delays back then were not as common as these days, so it wasn't the hip thing to do.
although, I guess Duke Nukem Forever got to be that one special child that got the
Pretty
delays
Rounds
back in the day.
had a lot of problems back then, and he still has. Alright, Dwibs,
Yeah.
what are you going to do next time?
Well, we're going to confront more of the bad guys behind the conspiracy and deal
I'm
with them.
guessing we'll deal with either Repta or Shrike.
Missed opportunity, Dwibs. You could have answered Teo with the same thing we did last part, Teo. The first-person shooter away for this mediocre mess.
Alright, see ya.
The faction and the pain. Yeah, yeah.
See ya.
Ta-ta.